Today's topic is wisely seizing opportunities. And our passage comes from Ephesians 5, verses 15 and 16. I want to point out that these verses are a part of the paragraph that runs from verse 3 of chapter 5 through verse 16. And the main point of that paragraph is this right here. Christians are to tactfully expose, not indulge in the sins of the lost, and thus lead the unsaved to Christ. But what does it mean to expose sin? To expose sin is to show it up for what it really is, so the unbeliever sees its hideous nature and its horrible consequences. Years ago, a friend of mine named Neil discovered a lump in his body. His physician exposed that lump for what it was. It was not a harmless benign tumor. Rather, it was malignant cancer. Surgery removed it, and now in the last 44 years, Neil has been cancer-free. Did his doctor do him a favor by exposing the nature of that lump? Yes, it saved his life. And when God uses you and me to bring to light, to expose the sins of unbelievers and point out to them that their sins are moral cancer that will destroy their life, that it will come between them and God, and that their sins can send them to hell, we do them a favor. Now they have an opportunity to repent of their sins and turn to the Lord. Now, I want to go back to these verses just for a moment. I've given the Greek text here and my English translation beneath each one. And so here is this Greek text of verse 16 here, and here is my translation. I want us to just briefly read the translation, and then we will tackle the Greek. So I'm in verse 15. So continually consider carefully how you are living, not as unwise, but as wise people do. Verse 16. Seizing for yourselves every single opportunity, because the sins being committed these days are so evil. All right, so now let's go to our text. And what I want to do is dismantle each verse little by little, unpacking the original Greek to help us understand the message it conveys. Then, having gone through the Greek text, we will look for practical ways in daily life the truth of this passage can relate to us. And what I want to do is I want to lay verse 16 aside and just concentrate firstly on verse 15. And the way I will do it is I want to both explain the text and write out some of the Greek words here so that by our hearing and reading, we have a better chance of understanding what these verses are talking about. So I would like to begin in verse 15 with the second word, oun, which is to be translated so. So I'm going to take the word oun, put it down here so we can focus our attention on it. And again, this is going to be translated so. Now, what is oun? This is an inferential conjunction. It looks back to the great benefit of exposing unbeliever sins mentioned in the previous verses up to verse 15, and it draws a conclusion that is stated in verse 15 as a command. Now, I want to go to the verb that states this command, and it's the word blepete right here, and this is going to be translated continually consider. Now, I want to make some remarks about this verb, blepete, translated continually consider. The mood of the verb. Now, remember that people have different moods. Greek verbs have different moods. A verb in Greek can be in the it can be in the indicative mood, the subjunctive mood, the imperative mood, the optative mood. And this verb is in the imperative mood. It expresses a divine command. This signifies neither advice nor suggestion. It is instead a divine order. And the definition of blepete is to direct one's attention to something so as to mentally reflect on and contemplate it. The tense is a progressive present expressing constant activity. So again, I'm going to translate this. Un, so, so continually consider. Now, the next word I want to deal with is the third word in the verse, akribos. This is to be translated carefully. I'm going to bring down akribos right here so we can focus attention on it. Now, what is akribos? This is a modal adverb meaning carefully, well. It modifies the imperative. It modifies blepety, which means consider. Consider. It modifies the imperative consider so as to produce the idea of constant, focused, precise consideration. Now, I want to go to the second clause, the second line in verse 15, post peripateti. Again, I'm going to bring these words down here so we can focus on it. I'm going to translate these two words. How are you literally walking? But I'm going to translate, how are you living? Now, let's take a closer look at this. Post, this word, is an interrogative adverb meaning how. Here it raises an indirect question inquiring of the church, how are you all doing in the Christian life? Doing well? Doing poorly? Somewhere in between? Are you tampering with the world's sins? Are you bringing the sins of unbelievers to light and helping them find Christ, etc.? Now, let me say a word about the verb, peripateti. Literally, this verb is defined as to walk, but it is used figuratively here, meaning to live, to conduct yourselves. Its tense is a present progressive, referring to the Ephesians' current daily lives in character and conduct. The verb is second person plural, addressing the congregation as a whole, and thus each individual within it. Now, I want to go to the last two lines of verse 15, and I want to focus on the hosts and all hosts. To be these last two lines are to be translated not as unwise. How are you living? Not as unwise, but as wise people do. All right, now let me focus attention on ne hosts. Grammar. These are two comparative clauses, one negative, informing how Christians are not to live, that is, unwisely. The other comparative clause is positive, informing how we are to live, and that is as wise people do. All right, now that I finished verse 15, I want to go to verse 16. And the first word I'm going to deal with is the initial word here, exagorazomenoi. And I'm going to take it and bring it down here so we can focus our attention on it. And I'm going to translate this, seizing for yourselves. Now, grammar. This is a modal participle pointing out how wise believers live. Remember verse 15 says, how are you living? Not as foolish people, but as wise people. So how do wise people live? They are those who seize something for themselves. Now, definition. Literally, exagorazomenoi means to buy, B-U-Y, to purchase. This word was used in secular Greek of a woman in the marketplace who spotted merchandise on sale at a discount. So she made the most of the chance to buy it at a savings. This word then signifies seizing something. That something is the direct object, ton chiron, every opportunity. Now, the participle's voice is indirect middle, meaning you seize for yourselves. This conveys two ideas. Firstly, God will give you certain opportunities that he does not give other people. God's going to give you certain opportunities he doesn't give your pastor. He doesn't give your elders. He doesn't give your best friend. God gives these opportunities to you. Secondly, it is to your advantage to seize these opportunities and make the most of them. So let me put it this way. Seizing for yourselves conveys these two ideas. Firstly, since these opportunities are given to you and nobody else, if you don't personally seize these chances, they will be lost. And secondly, it's not only to the advantage of the lost, but it is also to your advantage to make the most of these opportunities. Now, let's go to the direct object of the participle exagorazomenoi, seizing for yourself, ton chiron. So now I want to focus attention on these two words, bring it down here. Ton chiron, to be translated every opportunity. Definition, it literally means time. That is, chiron is going to be, it literally means time, like in the King James, buying the time. But this is a unique time that is so special it came to me an opportunity. Now, what is an opportunity? An opportunity is a situation that appears and offers itself to a person, and it contains a potential benefit. But opportunities are temporary. They are present briefly, then disappear. If one seizes the opportunity and makes the most of it, he obtains its benefit. Should he fail to seize it, the opportunity and its possible benefit are both lost, perhaps never to return. Now let me say something about the word ton. It literally means the. It's a definite article. The definite article is used in different ways in Greek, and this is the distributive use of the definite article, meaning every. A wise person seizes every opportunity coming to him. Now, what is that opportunity this passage is talking about? The specific opportunity and context we are to seize is that of exposing the sins of the lost and thus leading them to Christ. Now, in the Greek vocabulary, there are two different Greek words that are both translated by our English word time, T-I-M-E. First is chronos, and this refers to time in sequence, time as it passes. And from chronos, we get our English words chronology and chronological. How much time do you sleep at night? How much time do you devote to your job throughout the week, etc.? And this is not the word that's used here, seizing the time. Rather, the word used here is kairos. This refers to a special, unique time, not always available. Hence, we can better translate it opportunity. And again, the specific opportunity in context. Remember what this paragraph that runs 3 through 16 is talking about? That the Christian is not to indulge in the sins of lost people, but rather to expose them, to be a light in darkness to the lost and lead them to Christ. So the specific opportunity in context which we are to seize is that of exposing the sins of the lost and thus leading them to Christ. Now, why should we seize the opportunity? Well, I want to go to the second clause here, and I'm going to begin with this word hati. I'm going to bring it down here. Again, translated hati. What is hati? This is a causal conjunction that gives the reason why the believer should seize every opportunity to be a light and lead the lost to Christ. Now, the next words that I want to deal with are these two words right here. Hemeron, literally translated the days. I'm going to bring them down here. They can be translated the days. I'm going to translate them these days. Now, metonymy is a figure of speech that is present in high hemeroi, the days. This means that one word, days, is put in place of another word. Days stands in lieu of the sins that are being committed during these days. And the word high, which means the, is a demonstrative use of the definite article so that high is to be translated or rendered these. Hence, high hemeroi, these sins being committed these days are so evil. So, the reason then why Christians should be a light to the lost is that the sins that are being committed these days are so very bad. And if these sins of unbelievers are so evil, it points to their enormous moral need to have their sins exposed so they too may be saved. Now, here's an important question for you and me. Contextually, the opportunity that believers are to seize is that of leading the lost to Jesus. That's been stated just a minute ago. But now here's the question. Are the only opportunities that God gives us those of evangelism, that is, to be a light to the lost, to win people to Christ? No, indeed. The Lord graciously gives us throughout the year wonderful opportunities in various areas of life. Like what? Well, how about some of these opportunities? Opportunities that you and I have daily, weekly, monthly, throughout the year to pursue individual spiritual growth. Am I making most of the opportunities I have throughout the week, each day, or for most of the days of the week, to spend some time reading and nourish my soul on God's Word, and then having done that, to speak to God in prayer? I let God talk to me through His Word. I talk to God through prayer. What about opportunities that you have to spend time with your parents and grandparents? Now, especially if you're young, I want you to remember what you already know. Your parents and grandparents are not always going to be here. They'll probably die before you do. And I would give every penny I have right now if I could just have 5 minutes talking to my mother. And I'd be willing to talk to her on the phone if I could do that. But she died 20 years ago. She's gone. And one day, your parents, your grandparents will be gone. So don't neglect your parents. Don't neglect your grandparents. What about opportunities that brothers and sisters have with each other? Now, usually brothers and sisters are raised under the same roof. And then when they leave home, they usually live pretty close to home in the same area. But you're not always going to have the opportunity to spend time with your brothers and sisters. Sometimes brothers and sisters, when they leave, they become adults and leave their parents' home, they fly to the four winds. I've got one sibling, a sister down in Atlanta, and if I get to see her once a year, that is wonderful. So I don't have much time with my sister now. So remember, you may be living with your brothers and sisters now, but you probably won't always be doing that. What about as parents? Are we spending sufficient time with our children? Dads and moms, remember now that your children are going to fly from the nest when they're about 18, 20, 21 years old. And once they fly from the nest, except for occasional visit, they are gone. I deeply miss our three little children that we raised in our home. They've flown from the nest. Now, that's a proper thing to do. They need to leave dad and mom and get on with their life, make their decisions, live where they want to, etc. But as a parent, I just deeply miss them. I'm proud that my children have gone on and they're doing well as adults, but still, I just miss them. What about opportunities that as students you have in school? Now, I taught college for 41 years, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but there was a sad part about teaching, and that is I had not a few students who were just lazy, half-hearted. They didn't always come to class. They did a poor job on their homework. They weren't that excited about learning. They lacked discipline. They could acquire a better education than they did. They could have learned more than they did had they rolled up their sleeves and really seized the opportunities that they had. What about opportunities as an employee you have on the job? What about developing friendships? What about needy people in your neighborhood? What about the opportunities, many opportunities that you have in church to grow, to fellowship with people, to contribute to the ministry of that church? And what about Christian service that you do outside the church, et cetera, et cetera? So my point is, this passage is talking about our season, the opportunities to be a light in darkness and to witness to lost people and make an attempt to lead them to Christ. And we should seize those chances. God gives you and me throughout the week, month, year, wonderful opportunities in other areas of life. Now, another important question. How do you and I feel when heaven provides us with a golden opportunity served to us on a silver tray, a silver platter, dropped into our lap, but we foolishly let that opportunity slip right through our fingers, and we lose the opportunity and its potential blessing? How do we feel? Bad. We feel terrible about that. May I illustrate that? Now, certainly Americans will recognize this. This is the baseball diamond. This is the field, the pitch that baseball players are on and play on in a game of baseball. And you're probably familiar with this, even if you're not an American, that in the game of baseball, a batter stands right here at home plate with a bat. The pitcher throws the ball to him. He swings the bat. Now, in order for a batter to advance to first base right here, he must hit the baseball in between the third baseline and the first baseline. If he does, the baseball is a fair ball. That is, he can leave the home plate where he hit the ball and run to first base, and maybe if he hit it far enough, he can run to second base. And his objective is to get all the way around third base, come back to the place where he batted home plate and score a run for his team. But if the batter hits the ball outside the third baseline, outside the first baseline, the ball is F-O-U-L, foul. He cannot advance to any base. And in professional baseball, whenever a spectator, a fan, catches a foul ball, he's allowed to keep that baseball, and he carries it home. It becomes his possession. Well, years ago, when our son Joseph was 4 years old, I told him one day, Joseph, tonight I want to spend time with you alone, just you and me, nobody else. Son, what do you want to do? You want to stay here at the house? You want to go someplace? And he said, Daddy, I want to go to a baseball game. My 4-year-old son, Joseph, was in love with baseball. I enjoyed pitching baseball to him, and he hit them in our backyard. I taught him how to pitch, how to catch, how to field, grounders, etc. And he was so in love with baseball that sometimes he would take his baseball equipment to bed with him and sleep with it. And one night I slipped into a dark bedroom to kiss Joseph goodnight on the cheek and ended up kissing the baseball bat that he snuggled up on. And I asked Joseph, why do you want to go to a baseball game? He said, so you can catch a foul ball and give it to me. Now, Joseph had seen, I had taken Joseph to a number of baseball games, and he had seen that when foul balls were hit outside the third and first baseline and spectators caught them, they got to keep them. And so he wanted me to take him to a baseball game, catch a foul ball, and give it to him. Now, of the hundreds of baseball games I'd been to before, not once had a foul baseball ever been hit toward me. But tonight, not only was I supposed to have a foul baseball hit to me, I was supposed to catch it as well. And so my question was, how do you draw lightning if you want to? Now, this baseball game occurred when I was on the faculty of Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia, and it just so happened that night that the city's Class A minor league professional baseball team called the Lynchburg Mets, owned and operated by the New York Mets, were playing in town. And we only lived about a 10-minute drive from our home to Lynchburg City Stadium. And as we were driving in those 10 minutes, Joe said, Daddy, I want you to catch a foul baseball and give it to me. Now, in the first 6 innings of that game, Joseph and I sat right behind home plate where it is impossible to catch a foul ball. There was a roof overhead to keep the rain off. And right here was a screen, protective screen, to protect spectators who sit behind home plate from being hit by foul balls that came back here, and they would hit that wire screen and drop harmlessly to the ground. And in those first 6 innings that we were sitting there, Joseph said to me another 2 or 3 times, now, Daddy, remember why we're here tonight. It's so you can catch a foul baseball and get to me. And I thought, oh, if he mentions a foul ball to me one more time, I might just scream. Now, in those first 6 innings that we were sitting right here, I saw foul balls hit in the bleachers, into the seats in foul territory where lots of spectators were seated. And so I said, Joseph, we're not going to catch a foul ball here. Suppose we go out, leave our seats here, and go out into the seats, the bleachers, in foul territory right field, and for the last 3 innings. So we went out there, and in those last 3 innings, I offered 3 earnest prayers to heaven. Oh, God, please let somebody hit a foul baseball to me that I can catch and give to my son. He's got his heart set on that. In fact, I'm beginning to want that foul ball now worse than he does. And I said, Joseph, and then the last inning came. Well, before the last inning came, as we were out there in the last 3 innings, baseballs were hit to the right fielder in fair territory. 2 or 3 baseballs were hit to him, and Joseph said, Daddy, there's a baseball. Run out there and get that for me. And I said, Joseph, I can't go out on the field of fair play. And he said, why not? And I said, because the security guards will throw you and me out of the ball game. So the last inning came, and I said, Joseph, this is the last inning of the game. Now, if somebody doesn't hit me a foul ball in this inning, we go home that one. He won't know why. Well, Joseph, baseball game's over with. There won't be any more baseballs, fair or foul. So I offered up my 3rd earnest prayer. And I wasn't praying for the conversion of the lost. I wasn't praying that God would keep America from going down the drain. I was praying about something a whole lot more important, a foul ball. And in the last inning, the Lynchburg Mets sent a pinch hitter to the plate. I remember his name, Joe Redfield. Never met him, but I'm hoping someday I do and tell him what happened. And what happened? Well, when he came to the plate, he hit a foul ball. And to whom did that foul ball come? To me. And when he hit the ball, I said, Joseph, here he comes. And so Joseph and I took to our feet, and I got ready to catch that foul ball. And as that foul ball was dropping out of the air, I knew that foul baseball was the result of 3 earnest prayers to the Lord. And the closer that ball got to me, sure enough, I saw it had my son's name, Joseph, written on it. Now, as the baseball was dropping out of the air, I saw I had to take 1 step forward and 1 step to the left to get directly under the ball to catch it. But as the baseball was dropping out of the sky, the thought came to me, it has been 20 years since you played baseball. You surely don't think you're going to catch that fly ball, especially with thousands of people in the stand watching to see if you do. And because of that thought, I lost confidence in my ability to catch. Now, you ask, could you have caught that ball? Oh, let me tell you, as a high school player, growing up, I was an all-star center fielder. Catching fly balls was my specialty. I was so good I could almost catch a foul ball in my back pocket. And this was not a scorching line drive, the kind that's too hot to handle. No, this was a lazy pop fly, the kind your grandmother could catch. And I could have caught this, but I lost confidence in my ability to catch. And because I lost confidence, I lost that moment necessary to take 1 step forward and 1 step to the left to get directly under it. The baseball struck the ground. On the rebound, I made a stab for it with my hands. It went right over my palm. And I looked over my left shoulder to see where that baseball went. On the first bounce, it went directly into the hands of a man about my age who took it and gave to his son about the age of my son. And what did I see on Joseph's face? Oh, he was so disappointed. I couldn't apologize enough. Joseph, I am so sorry I missed that baseball. He was sweet. That's okay, Daddy. You'll give me one next time. Next time. You mean we got to go through all this again? All the way home, I apologized to him. And Joseph probably thought, oh, if my dad apologizes one more time, I'm going to be the one to scream. I went home and poured my heart out to my wife. And Sue tried to make me feel good. She said, it's a good thing you didn't catch that foul ball. Why, Sue? She said, you didn't have a glove. And if you'd have caught it barehanded, you might have broken a bone in your hand. I said, oh, that nonsense, Joe. So growing up as a kid, I caught lots of baseballs barehanded. And it never did hurt me. And I could have caught that one, should have caught that one. Now, for me, the worst part of this whole event was trying to go to sleep that night. I could not go to sleep for a while. In my mind's eye, I could see that baseball dropping out of the sky. And I just berated myself. You should have caught that ball. You unjustly lost confidence in your ability to catch. And now, look, your son's going to bed tonight brokenhearted without a baseball. Well, in the morning, my wife got smart. She took Joseph to the store and bought him a brand new baseball. And he got over his disappointment. I got over my disappointment. It just took me a while to do so. Now, what's the point of that story? When God gives us wonderful opportunities in different areas of life, and those opportunities are temporary. They're here just briefly. And if we don't seize them, they evaporate. Those opportunities fade away, and we forfeit the potential blessing, advantage, benefit that each opportunity has. Now, we shouldn't, and the remorse can last for years, if not a lifetime, of missing opportunities that God sent us. Now, we should never presume on this, but sometimes it happens. When we miss an opportunity, God graciously sends it back to us later on. Now, I missed that foul ball in Lynchburg, Virginia. Some years after that, Moody asked me to join the faculty, so my family and I moved down to Chicago. And one day I was in downtown Chicago telling a bunch of businessmen about missing that foul ball, and they just laughed about it. And one of those businessmen didn't even tell me that his brother played first base for the Lynchburg Mets, the very team that Joseph and I went and saw that night. that businessman contacted his brother and had his brother send my son Joseph a baseball autograph by all the players on the team. And when I gave the baseball to Joseph, he held it up and looked at it and said, "Daddy, this baseball's a whole lot better than the one you missed that night." "How's that, Joseph?" "The baseball you missed, Daddy, it didn't have any of the players' autograph on it. But this ball has everybody's autograph on it." "Boy, Daddy, am I glad you missed that baseball." So God graciously sent that baseball back to us that I missed, and it was even better than the baseball that I missed. Now, what practical relevance is it for does this passage hold for us? Well, before I mention some applications, let's just look now that we've gone through it, this verse, by unpacking the Greek, let's just look at my final translation. So, that the word "so," now remember, it's drawing a conclusion from the benefits that exist for us exposing the sins of the lost and leading them to Christ. So continually consider carefully how you are living. Now, why that remark? If I'm not paying attention each day, each week to how I am living, I may slip up, slip back, and fall into some sins that I was guilty of before conversion. And if I'm up to my neck in sins, is God likely to use me to bring other people to Christ? No, somebody needs to expose my sin and help me out of them. So to keep from falling into sin, we need to continually consider carefully how we are living, not as unwise people do, but as wise people. Now, how do wise people live? Verse 16 tells us. We are to be seizing for ourselves every single opportunity to expose the sins of the lost, to be a light to them, to win some to Christ. And why should we do that? Because the sins being committed these days are so evil. If the sins are so bad, then the men and women, the boys and girls who are committing these sins have enormous need to have their sins exposed to them. All right, by way of application. Number one, boycott sin. Avoid sin. To do so, let's pay constant attention to our daily life. How are we living regarding sin and righteousness? Secondly, seize the chances to be a light to those in moral darkness and lead some people to Jesus Christ. Thirdly, recognize and make the most of wonderful opportunities divinely given us in various areas of life, thus reaping their wonderful benefits. And lastly, he who is faithful in little will be faithful in much. If we reliably make the most of the chances, opportunities divinely given us, the Lord will surely provide us with yet more opportunities in days to come. So, Heavenly Father, we are grateful. We thank you for the wonderful opportunities you graciously give every one of us throughout the year in different areas of life. Now, Lord, help us to recognize the opportunities when they come, and then roll up our sleeves, put forth the effort, and seize those opportunities that we might obtain blessing, the benefit in each one, both for the benefit of other people and for ourselves. In Jesus' name, amen.